Folks, if you just grab a seat, we'll get rolling here. Get out of here today. Richie Smith. Get Richie to sit down. Richie, sit down. Let's go. So yeah, I know some people will probably be rolling in as we get going and stuff, but thank you for attending. My name is Jeff Lammer. I'm Assistant Superintendent for the district. It's nice to see a lot of familiar faces coming in. I'll do some quick introductions and another quick bit of news. For most of you that know Connie Griffin in the back, Connie will be retiring December 31st. I did rip up her resignation letter 3 different times and told her that it was not good, but somehow she snuck it into the district clerk. We did hire a replacement, Kathy Nolan, who's up in front. Kathy's a district resident. Kathy's been doing personnel clerk work over in Windsor School, so we stole Connie's replacement from another district who actually happens to live here. So Kathy's agreed to come over and get the background of the information today and take over for Connie. We also have Rain Buck from Humana, Ed Vaughn from E&B Insurance, and Lori from ProFlex. So that's the HRA card. So again, I think some of you may have been here about a year ago when we did the original Humana presentation. We're live streaming it again. It'll be on the website. When we spoke to everybody a year ago, our goal at that time was we had moved people in 2011 from the Excelis plan to the Hartford plan, which is a Medicare supplemental plan. We were looking to get people to try the Humana plan because what they told us in the meetings looked great. It looked the same as the Hartford and in some cases better, silver sneakers and some of that other stuff. But we wanted to try, before we jumped ship and moved everybody over, we wanted to see if we could get people to come over and try Humana that were actually on the Hartford. We had about 96 people that day that have signed up and have been on the Humana plan since January 1st. We've met several times with Humana and E&B just to make sure, are there any issues? There's been none. It's been very similar to the transition that we had from Excelis to the Hartford. So at this point in time, from the district's perspective, as we try to put budgets together year after year, obviously our goal is if we can create savings, budgetarily and offer the same or better plans, we have to do it. So with that being said, we're looking to make this full move over from anyone remaining on the Hartford on January 1st, we'll make that switch over. There's no paperwork that's required. It'll be a seamless electronic transition, so people that aren't here don't have to get paperwork in the mail that they have to do stuff. So we thought that was a nice way to transition it. So in light of that, we've got Humana to come in today to walk through I think it's pretty much the same presentation as was before. Open it up to any questions that you have. Ed's here from E&B. So if you recall, if you were here before, and it works the same with the Hartford, Ed's got an 8-person call center up in his offices in Syracuse. All that office does is handle Medicare related calls. So when we've had probably, Connie, 5 or 6 calls to the district with Humana related questions or concerns, we usually direct them directly to Ed's office. And then Ed's a go-between for you as the district employees and Humana. And we always think it's nice to put a name to a face, so Ed's obviously here, but a small office like Ed's, they work very well. They usually handle almost every issue that we've ever had with Hartford and or Humana. They resolve it. We've not had any feedback back at the district level that there's any ongoing issues with anybody on the Humana and obviously anyone on the Hartford side. So with that said, we'll open it up with Rain. Do you want questions asked as you go, Rain, or how do you want to?
Usually like to save them to the end, but if you have something you really need to know, that's fine. Did you want to go for it? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Is there a button to turn on the microphone?
I'm going to use that when you get to the question part.
Okay. I think I'll be loud enough, but if I'm not, just yell. Raise your hand. Well, good morning, everybody. We really appreciate you coming out. I think some of you are familiar faces, and maybe some this will be the first time you're hearing about this. So we're going to go in some detail in the beginning about what a Medicare Advantage plan is. We'll talk about your actual benefits, and I'll actually show you what we're going through. Your actual plan. Talk about the enrollment, which obviously, as Jeff just said, very simple. It's going to be done for you. And then all the extra benefits and things that'll come after you're on the plan. So we'll talk about those too. So what is Medicare? I mean, most of you are aware of the red, white, and blue Medicare card, and that covers Medicare A and B. A, which is the hospital, B, which is the physician side. And then many of you have heard of Medicare Part D, which is the pharmacy part of the Medicare plans. This plan is a Medicare Advantage plan, which is actually a Medicare Part C. So you're going to hear it called a Part C plan, Medicare Advantage plan, a lot of different things that go around, and I know it can be very confusing, so I just wanted to clarify that. So the other big part about it is if you're on, a lot of people are on Medicare, they use the red, white, and blue card, and then they also have a supplement type of plan. And sometimes they even have a third card that's for their pharmacy. So the nice thing about a Medicare Advantage plan is it basically rolls everything into one. So once you get on the plan, effective January, you're going to have one card, the Humana card. And that's all you want to show the doctors and the hospitals once it's January 1st. Because you want to take that red, white, and blue card and put it in the drawer, or they're going to actually bill the wrong, they're not going to bill Humana and it's going to get denied. So starting January 1, basically what it means is Medicare pays Humana to administer your benefits. So you continue to pay premium for your Part B premium, which comes out of your Social Security card. You continue to pay that to Medicare because then Medicare turns around and pays Humana. They're paying a big part of what your premium is, and then the rest is billed through the district. So put that red, white, and blue card away. Don't shred it. Just keep it in a safe drawer. And starting in January, you use that Humana card. And that'll have the supplemental benefits, the pharmacy benefits, and the Medicare Part A and Part B all rolled into one. So who is Humana? We actually have quite a few plans now up in, actually right here in this area and also up north in New York. We have been in the Medicare business since Medicare plans began. We have 8.8 million Medicare members, and we're actually the largest on the Part D benefit side, and one of the largest of all the Medicare providers. And that's just important because, you know, especially because there's other plans in this area. The doctors are familiar with us. They know, you know, who we are, and you might hear a little bit of, oh, we don't take Medicare, or we don't take Humana. And what they're talking about are individual plans, if you do hear that. I don't think you're gonna hear a lot of that, because we got very few questions on that when the other people joined last year. But if you do, and they're saying we don't take Humana, maybe you live outside of this area, they're talking about individual street plans. And you need to be aware and make sure that they're aware that this is an employer-sponsored plan. That's very different than all the advertisements you see on the TV. So Humana, you know, the biggest part of our business is the Medicare side. So now we're going to talk about your plan. This is what your ID card will look like when you receive it. And again, so Humana's right on there. It'll have your office visits, but the most important part is it'll have Maine-Endwell on there. So again, that's to tell them this is not just an individual plan that you bought. This is an actual employer's plan. This is also a PPO plan, and this is where it gets kind of confusing. People are a little, I've already had people ask me in the room about providers and what if I'm out of network. Well, the biggest difference in this plan, especially from the street plans and for most plans out there, is this plan works the same whether you go in the Humana network or you go outside the network. You don't have to be in Humana's network. So a lot of people go online and try to look up your doctor, and that's fine to do, but you don't panic if your doctor's not in the network. As long as they accept Medicare, which if most of you are seeing them now, they accept Medicare. There's only about 2 to 3% of the providers in the country that don't accept Medicare. So if you're already seeing them, they're a Medicare provider, which means they cannot balance bill you. They have to accept the Medicare allowable cost, and then that is, you know, what they accept as long as they're Medicare. So you can go out of network, your benefits are exactly the same. You do have an out-of-pocket maximum, but you'll see in a minute that that doesn't really matter because your plan is so rich, you're never going to get to your out-of-pocket maximum. And there is worldwide emergency coverage. If you go out, first of all, this plan works anywhere in the United States. So it's not just a plan for here. If you go to Hawaii or Alaska or anywhere in the country and Puerto Rico, you're covered by this plan. If you go out of the country, typically Medicare does not cover anything if you travel abroad. This plan does have a worldwide emergency only coverage up to $25,000. And I was just telling someone in here, if you're going out of the country, especially for longer than a week, I would probably buy travel insurance because that's going to cover things to be flown back into the United States. But this is there if you fall and need stitches or something like that in an emergency situation. So this is your plan. So as you can see, it's almost all zeros. The only number in there is your out-of-pocket maximum. Medicare requires us to put a maximum on your out-of-pocket per year, but you're never going to get to that maximum because you don't pay anything for any of your medical benefits. So anything that is Medicare covered is going to be covered at 100%. So this is medical only. We'll talk about pharmacy later. So pharmacy, you do pay out of pocket, but this, all medical, is at zero copayments.
So just to reiterate, because I know that's one of the questions I got. Currently, the Excel plan that we have, I believe the deductible is around $300, $600. So this plan, and the same as Hartford, significantly better than what our active current employees have with the Excel plan that they're on. The Hartford plan, we moved it over with zeros, and we did the same thing with the Humana side. So that's one of the questions I did get from a couple of people, so I just want to make sure that everybody understands that that's significantly better than if we put everybody back to the Excel plan. These benefits are significantly better than what contractually is in all of your contracts that you retired under. So just throwing that out, this is a pretty rich plan is what she's referring to.
Yeah, and if you were covered by original Medicare, there would be a lot more out of pocket than this plan is. Very rich benefits. Even, I do all employer plans, and I don't have many plans that have benefits like this. So now we'll talk about the pharmacy. So again, very good low co-payments. So if you're in tier 1, which are mostly all the generics, you pay $0. Our preferred brands are $10. Non-preferred brands are $25, and even the specialty drugs are $25. Specialty drugs typically are over $1,000. Some can be as high as $10,000, and you are paying $25. if you look at this, that's for 30 days, and then the 90 days is actually the same. So again, an amazing benefit. So even if you get a 90-day supply, you can do it through our mail order, which I'll talk about in a minute, but also at the retail pharmacy. So why would you prefer the delivery program? One of the things we've gotten year after year, we're getting awards for our mail order. It's actually Humana's mail order program. We have a facility in Arizona and a facility in Cincinnati, actually where I live. Our accuracy and safety is extremely high. I mean, you know, I think it's over 99.9%. It's triple check any prescription that's going out in the mail. And it also can just be convenient. If you're on a regular maintenance drug, it comes right to your door. The one thing that we do is we do not automatically send it. We call you, or it can be sent by text or email, whatever you prefer, to make sure you want that drug, you know, the next order to come, because sometimes your drugs change, or, you know, there could be a reason that you don't want it that month. So we will reach out to you before we send your next 90-day supply. A lot of people get confused about Part B drugs versus Part D drugs. Part B drugs typically are given in the provider's office. You're not picking them up at the pharmacy. Those are all going to be paid at 100%. Part D drugs are those that you're going to pick up at the pharmacy. So those are the co-payments that we just looked at. Again, the enrollment is very simple. You don't have to do anything. You're going to simply, by a list, be rolled into our plan for a 1/1 effective date. And I think we're going to probably get that sometime in November. So you should, first you'll get a letter from us saying that you're enrolled, and then you'll get your ID card sometime in December. So what happens after enrollment? One of the nice things about these types of plans is there's a lot of extra coverages. But first things that'll happen is you'll get that letter, and on that letter it'll have your actual ID number. It won't be your Social Security number, it'll be your Medicare ID, and you'll get that first, and you can use that. Once you have that, that means you're in our system. So if you have something that needs to be prior authorized, a drug that's a little unusual, or a procedure you're having done, somebody asked me about that, you can actually call your doctor, let them know that you're changing to Humana, and give them the number so that they can start that procedure. Then you'll get your ID card. Then you'll also get called about a health survey. And I know a lot of times people don't like getting those kinds of calls because they're concerned, why are they calling and asking me these questions? I will tell you the survey is very valuable because we have a lot of extra services. We can assign nurses and different people to help you kind of manage your care, especially if you have a number of chronic conditions. So we're calling for this information so we don't have to wait for claims to find out what kind of conditions that you're dealing with. So it's a good way for us to get information so we can start helping you right away. And then sometime in January, you're going to get the big fat book that's about 300 pages that give you every detail about the plan. If you want to take a look at it there. I always think the best way to see how the plan works is the pack, what you got in your packet. That's the easiest way to look at the benefits. One thing we like to stress is you do not have to choose a primary care physician up front. You don't have to tell us who a primary care physician is. You also don't have to have referrals on this plan. But we really encourage you to go see a primary care physician, especially if you have a lot of conditions, because a lot of people that I meet with, they kind of use their heart doctor or, you know, whatever doctor they're seeing for conditions as their primary doctor. They're, you know, and they tend not to get all of the wellness things that you can get and should get to take care of the rest of your care. So I found with my own parents, my father was very ill last year, and the primary care doctor really was the person that kind of made sure everything was happening because there were so many doctors involved. So I just really encourage you to make sure you have that primary care physician. There is a physician finder. I always kind of hesitate to put this on the slide, but if you're looking for a new doctor, it's a good place to go because then you can find one that's in the Humana network. Or if you wanna see if your doctor's in the network, you can look them up this way, but again, remember, they don't have to be in the Humana network. So this just tells you to go on humana.com to physician finder. Now we'll talk about those extra benefits, and we're gonna go into detail on some of these different things that we have here. How many of you have heard of Silver Sneakers? Okay, so quite a few of you. There's some paper up here. Great program. The YMCA locally is in the plan. So if you are currently not in our plan and you're paying for the gym membership, once you have your Humana ID card, you can join you can be a part of the gym without any fees. Sometimes they'll charge an extra for some special classes, but most of the things in the gym are free with the Silver Sneakers. So it's a great added benefit. And they have a lot of programs just for the Silver Sneakers program. So people who are in it really love it, and you know, and it's all over the country. So if you go to Florida for part of the year, you can belong to gyms down there. Doesn't matter how many. So definitely take advantage of that. Go 365, there's a great flyer up here. I don't think it's in your packets. This is Humana's program that actually rewards you for doing things that you're probably already doing. If you check into your Silver Sneakers gym, that goes towards you getting some what we call bucks. So you can actually earn up to $200 in a year, and then you can use those to get different gift cards. You get rewarded not just for being physically active, because everybody can't do that, but when you get your flu shot, you get a reward. When you get your well exam, if you volunteer, you can get bucks for that. So some of it's automatically happening. You know, if you're on the plan, you won't even realize it, but you're already getting credit. But you have to go out and sign up. You can either do it by phone if you're not good with using the computer, or you can do it on the computer, and then you can use those dollars to buy those gift cards. A lot of people I know save up, and then, you know, November, December, they get those, and you can buy Amazon cards, gas cards, different things like that that you can use maybe for the holidays. So the biggest thing you need to remember on this is it does expire at the end of the year, so you have to use your bucks by December 31st. But a really good program. You'll get a lot more information on this after you get your ID card. So you'll hear more about that, and I definitely, you know, want you to take advantage of it, because like I said, you're earning dollars for just certain well visits that you're doing, and if you're volunteering, those kinds of things. My Humana, this is where you can go. You can sign up and create your own account. And then when you're in the My Humana that's set up for you, you can look up doctors, you can look up your prescriptions and see what tier they fall on. You can, you know, look up how the plan works, you can see all your claims. So it's just a great way to get a lot of information. If you're not comfortable with the computer, pick up the phone and call customer service, and you can find out that way. Humana Well Done. This is a great program that I actually hope you never get to use, because this program is available anytime you're hospitalized for one night or in a skilled nursing facility. When you get home, we will send you 10 frozen meals, because the last thing you want to worry about when you get out of the hospital is, you know, having to get somebody to cook or you having to cook. So we send these right to wherever you're going. So that's one thing that's important. If you're not going home, if maybe you're going to live with one of your children, you know, we're going to check in with you a lot of times in the hospital before you leave. Just make sure you let us know where to send the meals, so that you have them when you need them. And they develop them specifically for diabetics and different needs that you have. Humana at Home. You could possibly get a phone call from a Humana at Home nurse or doctor, and this is a program, a lot of people were uncomfortable with this when it first came out. They can identify, you know, they will identify themselves from Humana at Home. You can also call them back if you want to verify that that's who they are. We also usually say, if you're uncomfortable with it, have somebody there with you when they come to visit. But this is a really great program. It's meant to come, especially if you have a number of conditions, but even if they just haven't seen you in a while, a way to have a doctor or nurse check in with you at your home. They will go through all your prescriptions with you. I know with my parents, there's so many different prescriptions there, they get confused at times with that, and it can just really help you walk through, and they make sure that you're taking them the right way. They also can check and make sure that your home is set up the way it should be. Maybe somebody needs a ramp. Humana doesn't actually build the ramps, but we find the resources for people to come do that. So people who have these nurses and doctors through these different programs end up really having great relationships with these people, and they become like a weekly part of their life when they check in. So they'll come to your home if they see a need, or sometimes if they haven't heard from somebody and there's no claims happening, just to check in with people. You can say no, but most people that do it really like it. And then we also have nurses available if you have specific conditions. So if you have diabetes and you're struggling with it, or have cancer, transplant services, they'll assign a nurse that can help walk you through the whole situation, because it's way more complicated when you have a lot of conditions. It can work with your different doctors, make sure that they'll check in with the doctor and make sure that you're understanding what the doctor is wanting you to do. They're not changing anything or telling you should do it differently. They're just trying to make sure that everybody is working together well with all the different doctors, and that you're getting the care that you need. Smart summary. So this is something that you'll get in the mail each month that you have an actual claim. So anytime you have a claim, either pharmacy or medical, this it's probably about 8 pages, but it gives you a lot of great information. I always tell people, don't pay that bill from the doctor until you get the smart summary, or go out and look at My Humana, because so many times you might get a bill saying you owe money, and with your plan, other than prescriptions, you really shouldn't, where there's an error in the doctor's office. So if you see that you got a bill for $50, if this smart summary, that bill will be on there, that the doctor bill will be there, and it will show you what you owe. And it should say 0. If it doesn't, actually, you should give us a call. But don't ever just pay a bill. I have so many members who, they get a bill, they don't like having bills, and they immediately write out a check. It's really hard to get that money back from the doctor after you've sent it. So definitely check with us, or check the smart summary. The smart summary will also give you, if there's a drug that you're on and there might be something that would be less expensive on a lower tier. Doesn't mean you have to change, but it'll just give you information like that. And it also is a great tool if you're going to see a new doctor. You can take a few months of this with you, and it'll show all the things that you've had done and all the prescriptions you're on, instead of carrying all your pill bottles with you or your list with you. So it's a great thing to have. So this is the number that should be in your packet. So anytime you have a question, you can call this number. Right now, obviously, they will have some of the members on Maine-Endwell in our system, so you can tell them the plan, but you will not be in the system yet until probably, like I said, sometime end of November, early December. But you can call and ask questions at this time, but once you get that ID card, you can actually get things moving. Like if you want to get mail order, you can set up your mail order, set up how your payment would be for the mail order, because you do need to set up on mail order prior to using it. So I definitely recommend you doing that once you get your ID card number. And that's it.
So I just want to throw out too, one of the big differences to us as a school, obviously the benefits side by side, Humana versus the Hartford, are identical, and in some cases they're better here. The difference between Humana and Hartford from our perspective, and Rain I don't think can do it because it kind of bashes the Hartford is simply a claims processing division of Medicare. You go to a doctor, there's a claim, the Hartford gets that claim, they pay it, they don't call you if you're in a hospital for 6 days to say, what can we change after you get out of the hospital, what caused you to go into the hospital. So this is a different way to manage Medicare. Again, Hartford simply gets that claim in, you're at the hospital for 6 days, they pay the claim, and off they go. They're not worried about what caused you to go into the hospital, whereas Humana, from their perspective, their success from the federal government side depends on how well they do all of this, what Rain just spoke about. If they're not successful in helping manage your claims as a Medicare participant, their ratings suffer. As their ratings suffer, the subsidies they get from the federal government drop, and they may not be the most advantageous for us to work with. So I think this is a great way to look at medicine, is it's more holistic, not, well, Ed went to the hospital, Ed's out of the hospital, we paid Ed's claims, I hope Ed does well in life. They're taking the proactive approach, saying, why did Ed go to the hospital? Is there did he fall at home? Can we go to Ed's house and see what we can do differently there? Is he not dieting properly? Is he not doing exercise? Is there something he can change that would require him not to go to the hospital again? So from that perspective, I think this is a phenomenal way to run the program. So I just wanted to throw it out, because I know Rain can't sit there and say, well, Hartford doesn't do this. I can, and that's what I think is one of the best ways that they do this approach. There's still going to be claims, obviously, but our goal, and obviously your goal, is you don't want to be in the hospital. You don't want to be having to go see doctors. So they're here to help bridge that gap to make sure that you're as successful as you can with your own health, obviously. So I just wanted to throw that out.
And just to add to that, all of that is very true, and like I said, our members love having these nurses and helping them. But we also get judged based on your happiness, how quickly you get into your doctor. So all those things go into the rating. So we have to, make sure that you're getting what you need. So I've been in this role, it'll be 9 years in January. I've been in this industry for a long time. This has been my favorite job because we truly take care of the members and the people that are talking on the phone. We have a specific one assigned to your plan, so that if you bring an issue to Ed's team, that person in particular is really researching it. They will call your doctor, they'll call you, they make sure that the whole situation is settled. So it really works well, and I just love having that team behind me. It's a great team. Yes.
If you go into a long-term nursing facilities, do the benefits stop?
So that's a great question. So he's asking about like skilled nursing. Long-term care is different. So there's two parts. So if you've been in the hospital and you need to come out and maybe rehab, for 20 days at a hospital, that's skilled nursing, and that is covered under this plan. But if you then, you and your family decide that you're going to move into like an assisted living or a longer term care or longer in the hospital past those benefits, then that is no longer covered by this type of plan. That would be covered if you had a long-term care policy. So that is different.
But do the benefits stop? The question was, do these benefits stop?
Do these benefits stop though? For me, if I was in a long-term, I have long-term health.
If you move into a facility and you're paying to be there, any other conditions would still be covered. If you broke your arm or did something like that, those benefits
What if you've
would
had
still
the
cover.
insurance, like I have long-term health care, that will cover me if I should have to?
The long-term health care would cover the cost of being in that facility, but our plan would still cover any medical care. Same with hospice. If you ever were in hospice, that's covered by Medicare, not by our plan. That's the one thing. But if you had something else happen to you while in hospice, our plan would still cover. So those are the two areas where our plan covers everything but what those plans pay for. Yes?
A question, and I disagree with you a little bit. We're in Hartford right now, and right now I've had 3 heart attacks and 2 pacemakers and all this stuff that goes along with it. But all of the meds that I've taken over the years, I've got it narrowed down to 8 generic, and I don't pay anything as far as the copay is concerned. So you're showing I think I've got about 70% of the generic at this point. The other part are regular drugs. And according to what you were showing up there, I would get the generic drugs with no copay. And the other ones, it would be paid on tier 3 or something like that.
Tier 3 is 25 and tier 2 is 10.
Okay. That's in Hartford.
Yeah, but with the Hartford, the formulary, what he's saying, or suggests the formulary could be different based on.
So his question is, today a lot of his prescriptions are in the 0 copay tier, but then other drugs can be on other tiers. And there can be differences, so something that is, I mean, typically all the generics are falling in that, unless they're a brand new generic. Sometimes when a generic comes out brand new, they can be as or more expensive than the brand. So sometimes they will start on a higher tier and then eventually as the costs come down, will be in that tier 1. But you might have a drug that's tier 2 on Hartford's and might be tier 3 on our plan and vice versa. And we actually took a little bit of a look at that, and there were some that went either way. So some can be higher and some can be lower.
But the disruption though, Rain, was very minimal.
Very minimal.
So when we did the analysis between Hartford and Humana, that's one of the things we looked at, you know, what would be the disruption? Because different companies have different formularies. There's still open formularies, they're not excluded, so we don't have any exclusions, right? But a drug can be in a different tier, in a different category. And the other thing you should know is that drugs also change. So a drug today that is a non-preferred drug could be a middle tier drug to, next year, or even down to a generic, and vice versa. So the drugs change tiers. They used to change every year. Now they seem to change more often, which is unfortunate, but they do change. And the other thing that I don't want to get ahead of ourselves with Lori is, also remember, the other thing that the district's going to be doing for you is we're going to put this HRA program on top of the medical program. So it's going to give all the retirees $500 a year to use. So in case you incur any additional expenses, where you want to use it for your co-pays, where you want to use it for dental or vision, there's a $500 HRA that you'll be able to use each and every year. It doesn't carry over, but it resets each year. Each January goes to $500. So for anybody that has to go from a tier 3 prescription to a tier 2 or tier 1, you'll be able to use that HRA to cover those expenses.
Rain, when you told me I could get a 90-day, but if it's a tier 4, it says it's not applicable.
So her question is, why does tier 4 say NA? And the reason for that is specialty drugs, which are those drugs that are over $1,000. They typically will not let you get a 90-day supply.
So then it was $25 a month.
So again, I don't know I can look into your specific drug.
Okay.
You're getting it at the pharmacy and the pharmacy is allowing that, so it might be able to happen at the pharmacy. I'm not sure, but typically drugs that are over $1,000, they supply it 30 days at a time.
Right.
So.
And we'll look at that because they, as Jeff said, you guys, we have the call center cards up here for everybody to take when you leave today. So when you have a question or you have an issue or you're not sure how something is paid, you can call our office. We have 8 people there. They're 8 to 5 o'clock, Monday through Friday, and they can help you. So situations will come up, but to go to Rain's point, with specialty drugs, they don't do mail-order typically with specialty drugs because of the expense, and also it could be of the drug. I mean, Medicare is very, very cautious when it comes to retirees, and from the carrier standpoint, a lot of times when they deal with a 90-day supply of something, they're worried about wastage too. If something that costs us $1,000 a month or $2,000 a month, we can have a potential wasted. I'm not saying that's the case here. I'm just saying, but that's why we have these things. So in this particular situation, we'll just make sure we'll grab your name. I know you've already called the NB, and we'll look it up specifically to get you that exact answer because it should be from that standpoint. I think it's the same, but we'll just confirm it all. So this state back here.
I have actually 2 questions. I noticed in the material it said Medicare covered dental and Medicare covered foot care. What does that cover?
Okay, so, you have to be careful of what that covers. For dental, it's typically just an accident. Okay, so she's asking about, it says Medicare covered services for some things. Orthotics is like that. Dental is like that, and what was the last one, I'm sorry, that you mentioned?
I just mentioned the dental and the foot care.
And the foot care. So we cover whatever Medicare covers. So Medicare will cover dental for accidents. It's not gonna cover cleanings.
You don't have a dental plan, or it's not a
Okay,
dental
that's
plan.
what
It's an injury or damage to your sound natural teeth. And if you have that situation there, then they're going to cover it, but not to be confused with a dental plan that covers preventative basic restorative, major restorative, so you wouldn't have that. Same thing with the vision, when you have a medically necessary situation with your eyes, cataract surgery or something like that, they're covering that, but you don't have a vision plan that's gonna cover your glasses, your contacts, or your frames, or your exam.
And then you will get some things in the new year that give you some discounts on the things that aren't covered. But I'm not allowed to talk about those before you're on the plan. So you'll get some little perks that can help with some of that. But basically, you know, it's the way Ed said it. And orthotics, that's a big one. You know, diabetic covered inserts are covered. But a lot of orthotics are not Medicare covered items. So it really depends, again, what it is, as to whether it's covered. But if it's covered by Medicare, it's covered by this plan.
In that, the section about the, eye care, it does say routine vision.
Yeah, so that, you have.
$100 for glasses. It's on page 2020.
That, I
Or
believe,
six,
is,
page 6, I'm sorry.
I believe that's just if you're getting, cataract surgery, I believe.
Yeah, typically it follows a cataract surgery procedure after that.
Let's see what it is, it might have been an added.
Did you guys add that?
On page 6.
We have an added this year.
Where it says routine vision.
Yeah, let me take a look at this quick. Yeah, you do have 100, that was an extra added benefit, that's not a typically covered thing. So you do have a benefit for $100 towards your contact lenses, glasses and frames.
So it's just a
per year.
reimbursement, so they just send you.
Yeah, so it's just a reimbursement if you do get, you know, glasses or.
Is it yearly?
Yeah, I believe that does say yearly, one per year.
So in that case, you just would attach your receipt, send it to Humana for a reimbursement up to, it's $100, right?
Yep, yep, and you do get eye exams covered, because typically you would
Oh,
not.
eye exams are covered?
Typically, you would not have that, so this plan has added in a eye exam. So again, anytime, if you have glaucoma, or you have diabetes or arthritis and need to have your eyes checked, that's always covered. But this is actually an eye exam if you're just getting them checked for your glasses or whatever. Let me make sure.
Is it up to a certain amount, or is it?
No, the eye exam is just, that is like a typical code, and that code is covered. Let me just make sure that there's.
I have a
not
question on, you said Humana covers everything that Medicare covers,
Correct.
is that true?
Yes, we have,
Okay,
as a
and-
Medicare provider, we have to cover everything Medicare covers, and then we add in some bells and whistles like this type of thing, like the silver sneakers and the Go 365, so we can add bells and whistles on top of what Medicare covers.
Okay, in vision, I have contacts that are a fakie, and because they're a fakie, they're covered by Medicare. So I assume that that is carried over to Humana?
I don't know what that is, I can have, again, I can take your information and see if that is a typical Medicare diabetic item, or I mean, Medicare item. So let me take that information, probably, but I never wanna say always, cause sometimes things get covered.
That's a new one to me, but
Yeah.
it would follow one of the guidelines. Typically, when Medicare approves it, there should be no issue, but before
Medicare
you
does,
leave.
yeah, they do approve it,
Yeah, so if they approve, there should be an issue, but we'll confirm that for you, so you know for sure.
okay.
The other thing you have is a routine hearing exam, and that's typically not covered either. So, and you get $400. You get $400.
You were recording this too, so Rain's online.
I know, it's right here in your book, so I didn't make this up. $400 in and out of network for a hearing aid.
Good question, but I don't know.
And you get 2 every 3 years for that, so that's a very nice additional benefit, so you're
How do you
getting.
make this claim, though?
How does the
I go
reimbursement-
for contact check. How do I make a claim back to Humana?
Most providers, he's asking, how do you send a claim? Either some of them will do it for you, some of them will not though, because they won't be able to look up on their system and see that you have that benefit. So more than likely, you need to take a copy of the bill, your itemized bill, And, they might have a claim form for you, or call and get a claim form from our customer service before you go to the
We can have
doctor.
claim forms here at the district, right, or can we send claim forms, how does that work?
I don't know if you have any extras here, but I know,
So, again, from the district perspective, we like to create a tab on the website for Medicare-related stuff. So on that tab would be stuff like this presentation. It would be a call center number for Ed's company, the customer service number for Humana, and then a claim form could be on there as like a PDF file, so you can click and print it. So, but going back there, again, here's what I would say, call Ed's office. You know, again, that's why.
Certainly we have them, I mean, we have the
They
claim
have
forms, so we can get them to anybody as they need them for sure.
that's probably
But
the
don't
best
be
way
afraid to
do it.
call, that's what we always tell you, just keep, call Ed's office. Ed's office works with Humana, and we'll get it resolved, we'll get that claim in for you.
Is that the same for if you have a cost outside the country, you would send the claim?
So she's asking if you travel outside the country. Yes, if you go outside the country, they're probably gonna make you give them their credit card right then and there. I had it happen in Mexico. My daughter had to go to the ER. We had to pay for it up front, bring claim forms, you know, the itemized bill back, and then I got reimbursed. So, they're not gonna take your Humana card when you're outside the country, so that is correct. Yes.
On the drug program, some of the drugs that I take have gone from 0 to 25. And those drugs I've taken for over 10 years at a 0 copay. Now they're going on to 25, plus 2 of the 3, say prior authorization. I've been taking them for 10 years, one of them 20 years.
Is it a generic drug?
One
And
is
it's on the tier
Protonix.
one. Yeah, I don't know why they would have them on that tier. We did, like Ed said, we did a disruption, and there were some that moved tiers. That seems unusual for something to go from a 1 to a 3.
Yeah,
But-
something that was generic typically stays generic,
And
so
what's
it's
that
just,
from?
yeah, I wouldn't.
Paul, if you want, after, get the information down, we'll write down the
I can
description,
take
get your
things like
contact, and
that.
we'll take that. But again, so I'll reiterate for Paul, and I have another question up here. From the district's perspective, we, for the next 3 years, the year 2020, 21, and 22, we're guaranteeing that $500 HRA card. So, and those are kind of the reasons why. If there is a slight change from something you had with the Hartford, we did the same thing when people went from Excellus to the Hartford. We didn't do an HRA card, we just said if it was something that was covered by Excellus, we, the district, will self-fund that. We went to the model of, we're gonna give everybody an HRA card. And there may only be 4 people that need it for something like that, Paul, that was a difference. But that HRA card allows you to use it for eyeglasses, dental coverage, anything that's not covered by your current plans that you're under. So, and that's, Lori's here from ProFlex to answer questions about that, but that was our intent of that $500 HRA card. That's a $500 HRA card for you, the subscriber, and if you're married, your spouse also gets an HRA card. So if you're married, you got $1,000 on 2 HRA cards to use for those types of coverages, so.
Do you know if you still, if you have to get prior authorization, if it's something, I've already gone through all the stuff, one of them is
You-
diabetic.
You would have to do it again, because we are a separate company, and there's no way to do that. Now, the
Do I
thing
have
that
to do the whole step program again? Because
if your provider, so he's asking about step therapy, and what typically step therapy does is it wants to check if you've tried other things. If you've already done that, all your doctor has to do is let us know that.
Okay.
Right.
And let us know why they are, why they have you on that drug.
I was gonna
So-
say, typically what we see is that prior authorization is typically done behind the scenes between the provider and the carrier. So you would just, when you explain to your provider, we have a new carrier, that Dave has step therapy, like the Hartford has step therapy, right? And if you've already done it, they should be able to answer the questions for Humana, they should be fine with it. And then the prior authorization typically takes place behind the scenes. Prior authorization is something that's, I don't wanna say it's easy, but it's pretty easy between the provider. And they're gonna go based on what your provider says. So if you've gone through that process, I can't imagine Humana giving you a hard time about what you've already gone through and you've been on for 10 years.
And I'd start that, when you get that paper that has your ID on, call your doctor, have them start that process.
And certainly, you'll have our number too, so if something gets, mixed up in the works here, give us a call and we'll get right on it to make sure we take care
And
of it.
we do also, first of all, I always say to everybody, fill your prescription before the end of the year so you have some, but we do allow in those situations too, one fill, so that you're not caught off guard if it isn't through the process yet. We always allow at least one fill. Okay, there's.
Quick question about the mail order 90-day supply. I'm currently getting 90-day supplies from the pharmacy.
Yes, we do allow that for your plan. Again, very unusual. That's something extra we put in to match your current plan.
Okay, so I can
Yes.
still do it through the pharmacy?
Yes.
And we also are covering a lot of things Medicare doesn't. We have vitamins covered and cough medicines, but we've added a lot of things to this plan. The one thing we did notice, and I will tell you up front so you know, we do not cover over-the-counter drugs. So if you're getting a medication over the counter, those are not covered under our plan unless a provider is giving you a prescription for them. So like my daughter's on Prilosec through a prescription, that's covered under the prescription plan. So regular over-the-counter, if you're going to buy some aspirin, that is not covered under the plan.
Scientifically.
Some prescriptions are electronic, most of them, and some are paper. What's the process for both of those?
Typically, you just tell the doctor, first of all, if you're getting something at a retail pharmacy, all you have to do is show them your Humana card, and then tell them now send everything starting January 1 to Humana. Paper-wise, or if you're at the doctor's office, same thing. If you're getting it through retail, you just have them continue to send it to that retail pharmacy, or tell them, show them your card, your ID card, and tell them to send it to Humana's pharmacy, mail order pharmacy. Yes.
Hi, I take 2 blood pressure medicines. The one is in here, but one of them isn't
Okay.
even listed.
So I meant to say this earlier, that is just the most prescribed, that is not a complete list by any means. A complete
Yeah, the
list
complete
is,
formulary list is probably like 50 pages long.
probably even
So,
longer, yeah.
That's just really the most commonly used drugs that are prescribed.
But right now, you're getting it through the Medicare and the Harvard side, so they're covered. Yeah.
And the one, I will not take a generic in it. Do I have that option with this? I like
You're
paid the
never forced to
$25.
generic, you just pay whatever the
Just pay the high
tier is
copay,
on.
that's correct.
Okay.
So you never have to be forced into generics, it's just they're on a lower tier. Yes.
I get my care supposedly from the Veterans Administration.
Okay.
But, how is Humana get along with the VA?
So they're totally separate, so, and they, okay, if you're on VA, if you have VA benefits, I have a lot of members that maybe get their prescriptions through the VA and get their medical care elsewhere, or vice versa. And so whatever goes to the VA gets paid by the VA, and whatever you put through Humana gets paid by Humana. It's just 2 separate things.
Well, the reason I ask is because our free medical, which we were promised when we signed up, I noticed that every once in a while I get a paper saying that they charge Medicare and they charge Hartford.
Okay.
And so it's really not free, but I just wondered if the VA charges Humana.
I never heard that it worked like that, so that's new to me. So he's saying sometimes VA charges to Hartford and
Could be,
Medicare?
there's a little difference, as Jeff was saying earlier, keep in mind that with the Hartford program, that program is a Medicare supplemental program, so Medicare is paying first, and then Hartford pays second, so that's why they're billing both. Under the Humana program, Humana basically is replacing Medicare.
They always say, if you have individual medical care, please bring your card when you come up for your.
And sure, you would say, I have individual health care, you're gonna have it through Humana.
He's saying though the VA should be free and it's charging anyway. That I don't know.
Yeah, that I don't know.
It's not charging individual.
Yeah, you're not getting charged, right?
Not charged.
Well, that's good, all right.
Well, somebody's gotta pay for the services, so
That's a new one.
they're just charging the carrier, so if Medicare or Humana or Hartford will pay for it, I'm sure they're gonna bill.
They bill Medicare and they bill Hartford.
Right, absolutely.
That's a new one.
I hope your reimbursement process has improved, because I have dealt with Humana before, and the reimbursement process was a nightmare.
On this plan,
Wasn't through this, but it was through the county.
so,
But it still was a primary, Humana was the primary carrier.
okay.
And the reimbursement plan
If that's ever the case,
I have.
let us know, cause I,
Don't worry,
Yeah.
I can.
It's
It's not a problem.
That's certainly a good concern. I mean, and when we took, was it like 98 people? When we had it voluntary last year and we came in and did it, we had 98 people come onto the Humana plan. We closely monitored what was going on. Were there any issues? What were the questions? Were there any issues with the pharmacy? And then we met recently with some folks who had put together to kind of review our notes. We log every call that comes into the call center. So I go back easily and say, okay, these are the calls. Most of the calls that we received from the retirees at Maine-Endwell were really questions about, hey, I'm gonna go have this procedure. How does this plan work again? It was more about a whole procedure type thing. We didn't have claim issues. We didn't have people really concerned about the prescription. We had some questions about the Proflex, the HRA. We did get some of those questions. So if something does not get processed the way that it's supposed to be, or the way that Humana is claiming it's going to work, please, you need to call us. Because my job in this thing is to keep Humana and Proflex honest.
I didn't have a
I don't work
local
for Proflex, I don't work for Humana. I work for you guys. We're your advocate. I'm a consultant to the district. Okay,
My
so
primary
that's,
claim was chiropractic care, and they kept kicking the bills back saying they
I
weren't coded
think,
right and
I
stuff.
remember, we had some chiropractors in the area, and again.
That don't take Medicare, then you have to
Chiro-
submit it.
Right. Chiropractors are, again, another area where you were talking about Medicare covered. So I would say that's one service where we cover the spinal manipulations, but other things that sometimes chiropractors do or pay or charge for, they're not Medicare covered. So that is one area. But I do, like I said, I'd say 98, 99% of the doctors accept it, but there are a few podiatrists and probably a chiropractor in town that won't bill.
He
So
has that
then-
now, and every 30 days I
Right.
get my reimbursement.
Yeah.
And I would say,
Not a problem.
especially, I'll reiterate what Ed said, he's here as the liaison between the Medicare group and Humana.
Good.
When people call us, I don't have you call Humana, we have you call Ed's office, and let Ed's office run with it. Nothing against Humana, nothing against the Hartford, it's just, I want everything going through one place if we can do it. And again, you guys can call whoever you want, we can't control that. But again, at the end of the day, when I pick up the phone, if there's an issue, the first person I call is Ed. I'm not calling Humana, I don't call the Hartford, I call Ed and say, we got notification from a retiree, you have this issue, are you aware of this, did they call the call center? So obviously from our perspective, we try to funnel it all through Ed's office. 8 people solely dedicated to all your Medicare issues, and whether it's a claim, whether it's why is this prescription different this month versus last month, that's what we want everyone going through Ed's office. So again, he's got those call center numbers up here. When you call our office, or Connie, or now Kathy going forward, that's the number we're giving you. We'll give you a Humana as well, but we always start with, here's the EMD call center, call them first, and then go from there. And if it happens that way, I think we've had one issue with orthotics. It went to Ed's office, went to Humana, or actually the Hartford at that time, came back to us, saying it's not covered. Boom. So in this case, you have an HRA card for something that's not covered, but we'll funnel everything we can through Ed's office, because it's worked out well.
next question, yes.
I have 2 questions. First, I'll give you the easy one. For Silver Sneakers, if I go to, I'm not sure how it works, if I go to 2 different gyms for different classes, do they cover each, or you pick one?
Nope, you go to any of them you want. So I think there's 5 in our area. You go to all 5 if you want. Go every day, all 5.
I can go to all 5?
If you go, and some of you know Roxanne Sylvain, that retired out of the business office. She goes to Myrtle Beach periodically throughout the year. They own a place down there and still up here. She says she's a member of 2 gyms down in Myrtle Beach. For that reason alone, she wants to do, I think, a spin class here and something else at the other place. When she comes home, she can join the Y, she can join the Jewish Community Center, all at the same time. So there's no limit on it, which is fantastic. So if there's a pool in one, and you want a pool, go to a class in another, go to all of them. You gotta remember all your membership cards.
Now your tough question.
I don't know if it's tough, but I've gotten a lot of phone calls from people who no longer live in the area, and they're in a panic because they called their doctor, and their doctor said, absolutely will not accept Humana. And last year, I remember you were saying if they're on Medicare, then do they have to accept you?
Okay, so her question is that, you know, people out of this area that aren't maybe used to the plan are saying, we don't accept Medicare. Again, they're completely
Well, they don't accept Humana.
I mean,
They'll say, we don't accept
They
Humana.
don't accept Humana. So basically, they're saying, we don't accept those plans that you buy on the street, that you buy an individual plan, you're not part of a group. They just don't understand the plan. Because those types of plans have much less coverage if you're out of network. So they don't wanna deal with that, because they know there's gonna be a lot that the, member has to pay to be seeing them. Once we call them and explain to them, our plan's different, this is an employer plan, it's 100% in and out, again, 98% of the time, they accept the plan. If for some reason, they still say, we are not gonna bill Humana, somebody can still see that doctor, they just would have to pay and, like she was for the chiropractor, pay and submit a claim. They still cannot balance bill, because if they are a Medicare provider, they have to accept the Medicare allowable. They can add what's called a limiting fee, and if they do, we still cover that. So, a lot of times it gets complicated if they, they say they won't even bill, but very few even do that, and if it is, it's usually that podiatrist.
We had that same issue with the Hartford.
Yeah, we had some of that early on with Humana. We had to call a couple providers, explain to them, and Rain is correct. The individual plans that you get mailed all the time, right, between, Aetna, Humana, United Healthcare, MVP, all of them, right? So when you buy an individual plan from your house, and if there's not a group policy, you have a lot of less benefits. And the biggest one is the donut hole. Probably all heard donut hole. The donut hole is a big gap in coverage on the prescription side. That's not in this plan. Okay, there's also typically more deductibles, more out-of-pocket expenses, bigger co-pays. This plan is a Cadillac plan, so it's really night and day. And once we've explained that to the physician, then they're fine with it. But we did have to explain that to a couple of physicians. I can't remember where they were, but I know that we did explain that, and they were fine afterwards. But as Rain said, there's a dramatic difference between an individual policy and a group policy. So those people that are out of the area need to make sure they're telling their physician that we're going to a group Humana policy, not an individual policy.
Rain, last year you had letters.
There should be in your
To
packet.
take to the doctors.
Yeah, to take to
But
the
they're also
doctor.
here, so if you have multiple doctors, you wanna take them to some of those people, just remind them this is in their packet, you can copy it, or you can take more of these.
But on that
Right
same
here.
note too, if you take the letter, you go to your doctor and they're saying, call Ed. Say, hey, this is my provider, this is the contact number, let Ed's office get involved, and then Humana will get involved as needed, and then we're removed from it. So we'll get it taken care of, and then you're not having to deal with the doctor. So, cause I even down at Endwell Family, when we switched to the Hartford, that's our school doctor. Like, we don't take this plan. So we called them up and said, hey, this is a group, Medicare supplemental plan, no issues. You know what I mean? But when you walk in and say, oh, I got a new plan, I'm on the Hartford, we don't take it. Oh, you take Medicare. Oh, yeah, we take Medicare. Well, this is a Medicare plan. Oh, we didn't realize that. So take the letter, try to, give your doctor as much heads up. I mean, if you can, and you have those letters, and you go to see your doctor in November, take that letter and say, just so you know, in January, I'm switching over. That way, if there's an issue, we can get ahead of it for you. So it's not, you're going on January 20th, and they're saying, well, we're not taking that. We can help you get ahead of it, great. If not, we'll deal with it at that point in time. But I think that Endwell Family was the prime one. It was funny, because my sister was working down there as a doctor at the time. So I was like, hey, what's going on? And she's like, well, we don't take that plan here. I'm like, well, it's our Medicare plan. She goes, oh, nobody told. So one of those things. So I haven't talked to her since then either.
Next question.
One thing to be aware of, if you are diabetic, one change that we'll have is we have specific monitors that we have you use so that your lancets and everything else are covered. If you're on one of these already, you don't have to worry about anything. If you're not using one of these, and this is up here just for people who have diabetes, you will need to switch to one of these. They are free. We make sure you get them free, and there's coupons and there's different ways to get different ones free. But I just want you to be aware that that is something you might have to do if you're on if you have diabetes.
This fact of having a group would make a difference. And I had a relative that had Humana, down in Florida. And she came up here and lived with my mother for a while, and she got ill, and Humana wouldn't cover it because she was out of that area.
Right, so again, individual plans are typically rated and set up for very specific areas. So if somebody moves, that plan, usually, you have an open enrollment then to change it. So this plan though, again, different than individual plans, it works anywhere in the United States.
Well, that was one of the questions we got asked last time, is, Humana, if Humana is such a great deal, why didn't we do Humana in the first place? That got asked. And the answer was, as Rain has already told you, this is a 100% plan with a passive network. That did not exist when we did the Hartford program. This is new. The Medicare Advantage plans could really never compete from a benefit standpoint from a Medicare supplemental policy. They're always better. But now that they can do 100% coverages and have a passive network, so it doesn't matter whether you're in Humana's network or not, now they're competitive. So that would never happen here in the situation here. Yes, sir.
Can I go back to an explanation you had just a couple of minutes ago? Can a doctor, I understand Medicare pays X amount, can a doctor and or a specialist charge over that amount? And that difference, does that go towards that $1,000 out-of-pocket expense in this plan?
Okay, so the answer to that is, so he's asking, can a doctor charge more than the, whatever the payment is? If they are a Medicare provider, which 97% of the doctors in the country are, they cannot balance bill at all.
So they cannot charge you more than what Medicare is reimbursing. Okay.
But if there happen to be, there's maybe, I think there's like two or three hospitals in the country that are, which is very unusual. And then there are some doctors that just, a lot of these, some that have set up special practices, they don't want to accept it because it's less reimbursement. So that 3%, they can do whatever they want because they have not signed up a contract with Medicare. So, and if that's the case, that's just something you would have to pay out of your pocket. That wouldn't go to any out-of-pocket or anything.
And that's, you're talking about concierge providers?
Yeah, some of those.
So the concierge providers are really somebody that says, Jeff, pay me $5,000 a year and you'll have 24/7 access to me. That's something it's not really a new concept. It's been around. In my 30 years, I should say I never saw in this area really a concierge provider. Now we are starting to see it pop up. There's a podiatrist at Harperston that popped up on us at, because we work for that school district. But we don't see those providers too much. But to further answer his question too, he was talking about if a provider is willing to bill Medicare, but they don't accept Medicare and they charge that additional fee. You said earlier.
There is a limiting fee, which is about 15%, so they can do that, and some do, and we will reimburse that.
We call it an access fee. Some providers will charge 15% more than what Medicare would reimburse. Under the Hartford program that was picked up, here they'll pick it up as well. Okay.
Yes.
I have a family plan through the school, but my husband worked for IBM and he has to have a policy on his own through Humana. He has. So you're saying that you don't use your Medicare card anymore, just the new Humana, but he would still have to use his Medicare card.
I don't know what his is, so. So
Would he be with you?
IBM.
Would he be with you under this plan? You'd each have Humana?
Oh, he would.
He's under this plan with
Yes.
IBM.
So you would each have a Humana card?
Yes.
Right, but he also has a Humana policy through IBM.
So right now he has Humana and Harvard.
Correct.
And how does it work? Does one coordinate with the other?
Well, you can't have two Part
It
Ds.
always was Medicare, was his Humana and then my coverage. But you're saying you don't use the Medicare card anymore.
What Ed said is very important. Is he on a Medicare Advantage plan? You need to know
No,
that.
I think it's just it's a very high deductible. You have to take a policy in order to get their stipend.
Okay, you just want to make sure that his plan is not a Medicare,
Yeah, I don't think it's up there.
because if you had two, they'd kick you off the other.
Right, but he has to have a policy in order to get the stipend. So he would still have to use his Medicare card, his Humana policy, and then somehow this would kick in after?
So again, same type, we'll get your information,
Okay.
as give us your information, maybe a copy of his card from the IBM plan that he's on, and then let us look into that for you now, instead of waiting until January 1st, we'll try to get ahead of it for you.
In the Medicare program, PPO program, if you're covered under the PPO program, specifically said in the Medicare booklet that you cannot have an additional co-insurance except your PPO.
You cannot have two Medicare Advantage plans. If you accidentally filled out an application.
No, I understand that, but I'm saying, the Medicare book itself said the PPO plan, you're covered under the PPO plan, there cannot be another co-insurance to pick up your co-pays.
There aren't even any co-pays on this plan, so
Right.
there's.
And really what they're referring to, they don't want you to be on two Medicare Advantage or two Part D plans. Medicare has strict rules about that. And in this case here, there would be no reason to be on two because it's all zero co-pays other than your prescriptions.
So if her husband has to pay for that, does he have to pay for that? Would he have continued to pay for it even though he didn't use it?
I don't know, we'll have to look.
Sounds like you're saying IBM's requiring him to have it.
In order to get the stipend, the $3,000 or whatever it is,
Yes.
he has to pick a medical plan. So he picked the highest deductible.
Gotcha.
And it's a Humana policy.
Okay.
So if he doesn't keep that Humana policy, he doesn't get a stipend.
Doesn't get a stipend.
Well, so much money.
Oh, gotcha, okay.
And, even though he pays for the policy, he can take it out of that amount of money. Same as with vision and
Yeah.
dental and, anything that's not covered.
Yeah, so like I said, let's get your information at the end and try to check. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Cover like if you go to the emergency room, you cover does Humana cover everything there?
If you don't get admitted. So are you worried about if you're in observation? That was a really big issue, I'd say 2-3 years ago. I don't hear of that anymore because I think all the hospitals are pretty aware that if they have you more than 24 hours, they need to admit you. But it used to be a big thing where they just left you sitting, waiting to decide what to do, and then
If
it
you don't
wasn't
make it to
covered.
that 24 hours, like sometimes if you go to the emergency room or whatever, and they don't admit you, they send you on your way, and you're stuck with $100.
I never hear those kinds of things happen.
I think when they look at your plan, I think that these hospitals now are so in tune with what your coverages are. I mean, they walk around with iPads now, as soon as they plug your stuff in, they know exactly what your coverage is, so they know that they've got to get you admitted. So, like Ray said, I don't hear that being an issue anymore. That was an issue probably 3 or 4 years ago where, these ER rooms were filled up and people were sitting there. I think now with the addition of like the urgent care facilities and more people being educated going to the doctor's office, and so I haven't seen it be an issue in a long time, but I think that the facilities are so in touch with what your benefits are that they get people admitted within a 24 hour more than they don't.
They don't want it not covered.
Right.
And what about the ambulance? Is that all covered?
Yeah.
Plan on something we don't know about? Sounds like a big party you got coming out this weekend.
Actually, I had an incident, that's why I'm asking. And, out of state too.
Yes.
So I just recently went to the emergency room and I was charged $100. Under this plan, will that be completely covered on the emergency room visit?
Yeah. I believe theirs is zero copay.
Yeah, on Hartford? No.
Um,
You're on the support staff plan, there's $100 copay for ER visits
No,
on
I
it.
think, no.
And
I was still, I was actually still under,
Right, so there's $100 copay. That's designed in that plan that you're under support staff. When you move over to either Hartford or Humana, there would be no copay. Right. Yeah.
Yes.
Should have waited.
Hi, how does a $500 card
Okay,
work?
that's a great transition. So we're gonna bring Lori from Proflex up, and we're gonna talk a few minutes about the HRA, the $500 HRA, because people are gonna have questions. How do we use that? What do you use it for? So we've got Lori from Proflex here who will talk about the HRA and will answer questions. Then if anybody has anything specifically individual that we need to take some notes on, Ray and I will be up here. We'll take your name, number, information. and we'll get back to you on what the situation is.
So while Lori's talking, I'll hand these out. This is the information she has in her hand. This is all the stuff that's covered, that can be covered by your HRA cards and stuff. So I'll let her talk while I hand some of these out.
Okay, so I'm Lori from Proflex. Once you're enrolled in the Humana plan, you'll be eligible for, can you hear me?
Speak it up.
I thought I had
Yep,
a big
you
mouth.
have to speak up.
Hello, hello? Hello?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're,
Hold up.
the district is offering a $500 health reimbursement account to offset some of your expenses, such as, well, medical is pretty much paid in full, but you can use it for dental, vision, pharmacy expenses. You can purchase glasses. There's a couple over-the-counter items that are eligible, such as Band-Aids, diabetic testing. You can purchase braces if you have something wrong with your arm. You can purchase that. The list that you have is everything that is eligible, and on the back there's items that are not eligible under the plan. So you will be receiving a Proflex Blue Card that you can use at the pharmacy, dentist, vision, right at the point of sale.
And that looks like a debit credit card.
It looks like a credit card.
So I know when are those coming out? Just
Well,
to make sure they don't throw them out.
Yeah, don't throw them out. It'll say do not throw away. They will be coming out as soon as I have everyone enrolled.
Okay.
It takes about if you don't have a card now, it'll take about 5 to 7 business days.
Sometime in December, Lori?
Yeah, once everyone's enrolled.
So that come with something with Proflex, will your name be on it?
It will not be on it.
Okay.
It'll just say, do not throw away, benefits enclosed. on the
Everything
envelope.
they get says that.
Well, I know, and it does look like a credit card advertisement, but open it up.
So
It's
feel your
Proflex
mail,
card.
it'll feel like a little credit debit card inside that envelope.
Yeah.
And just, if you feel something like that, it could be junk, but make sure you open it up, because that's how it will come to you. And it's just like a debit or credit card. Most doctor's offices, dental offices will take a debit card. If you go to the dentist, you got a $107 bill, you hand them this
Right.
Proflex card, they swipe it just like it's a debit card, and off you go.
And also, if you're doing a mail order for pharmacy, you can give them that debit card, so they'll automatically debit that card. So you don't have to pay out of pocket and then get reimbursed. So I would highly suggest that. Does anyone have any questions?
I have. We're both on the plan. Do we both get a card?
Yep, so you're gonna both have $500 cards.
Correct.
Yep.
Yeah, when you use it and say something costs $150, they deduct that.
Yep.
Do you know how much is left on it? Does it say it?
Well,
So how does that work?
You can log in on your employee portal on Proflex website, and you have the login information. Once you're enrolled, we automatically create an online account for you. So you can either view your history online, or you can contact our office directly.
Do they get statements, Lori? So there's no
No,
statement?
there isn't any
So
statement.
that's a really good question. So when you're using the HRA Proflex card, you're not gonna get statements on a monthly basis to say how much is left. So you either need to log on the Proflex website and go to the portal to verify how much is left, or you can contact your office directly, or you can contact our office.
Yeah, you can contact our customer service department.
Now, does it have to be used within the year?
Calendar year.
Correct.
Yep.
Calendar year.
Right.
And it doesn't
January
roll
1st,
over.
December 31st.
No.
If you got $12 left, that's gone. You get a new $500 card the next year, and off you go.
Gotcha.
And if you exceed that,
You can't exceed it, the card will decline.
decline after.
Mhm.
Let's say you have a $100 bill and you only have $80 left on your.
Use 80 and you'll get 20 out of 5.
Correct.
I'm trying to get the same setup for my wife, because she hasn't had been spending a lot of money. Doesn't work yet. But again, same thing, if you have questions when you get them, how to use them, please call. And again, Ed's office is very familiar with Proflex, Ed's office is very familiar with Humana. So if you're calling us, we're telling you to call Ed. If you have a number, when you know to call Ed, it's a lot easier if you did, so.
My other number right here.
Yeah. Any other questions? Proflex? Like I said, so from our perspective, I think most people have used them pretty successfully. We also have a small 10 to 15% of the 96 people that haven't touched their cards yet.
Right.
So we don't know if it's they don't know how to use them, but we haven't gotten a phone call. So like I said, when you get them,
Or maybe you haven't received your card? Has anyone not gotten the card?
I think nobody here is on Humana
Oh, okay.
right now. So
Okay.
so that's what we've seen is most people have had great success. We get the reports in that says, okay, so and so used 27 here, 80 here. So we're seeing them being used, but there's quite a few that they're not even touching them yet. So we'll again use them. You know, this is the district saying we want to make sure that this program works with Humana. We want to make sure if there's anything different from what you currently have, there's $500 to cover it. So if you get them, make sure you're using them, okay?
Yes.
Yep. Yep, so nothing will change in terms of what you left here when you're retired in terms of the balance that you owe. That'll still get, either you can stop in, you can mail it. You'll still get, I think, statements go out in August, Connie, for payment plans and stuff like that. So yeah, nothing changed on that.
So you're coming back in August to do that?
Connie will be back.
When can we expect the Humana cards?
I would say that we should start to see the cards running like mid-December.
Yeah.
I would say mid-December. I know that, so.
What date should they start calling you?
If it's, yeah,
Let me back into the question. What date?
If you don't have your cards by Christmas, then you need to start calling us going, hey, we don't have cards, and we do work that week between Christmas and New Year's. So if you don't have your card by Christmas, please give us a call. Because this is, as Jeff said, we're going to enroll everybody via a census. So we're getting the data, we're going to submit it to Proflex and Humana. So we're going to have the data pretty soon. So I would expect that the cards and the debit card, right, should all be to everybody sometime mid-December at the latest. So, but if you don't get that, if you don't get that by Christmas, then call me. Yes, sir.
And Humana starts January 1st?
Yes, everything's effective January 1st.
That's what I was gonna say, if you get your card earlier, don't start using them.
Right, that's a good point. Don't start using the debit card before January 1st, or Humana. Any other questions? Well, we've got these cards here, it's a form for you. Thank you for your time today, and we look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
And again, this will be on the website if you want to access it, or if you have friends that couldn't make it, please let them know to click on the website. Ross, you got it from North Carolina, Ross. Ross, all right. You were North Carolina. Did you go to North Okay. Oh, okay. You don't have your house. Okay.
Yeah, take it off.
Oh, that's